Hello, good morning, and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Anne, and disembodied hands, Quindy, Justin, and John, except mostly Quindy. Hello, everyone. Hello. Good afternoon for you. Yeah, good morning for me. Yeah, mostly Quindy, yes. Hey, Bookend Kitties, and Pendrake, and everybody. Hello. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. I'll go that far. We have a fake iridescent wing. Fake iridescent wing. Here it is. So for those who did not catch my personal stream on the weekend, I did actually get a dragon head. So I have a dragon head. I have dragon legs, but they did not send me the arms because apparently arms are different than legs, even though dragons are quadrupeds. Oh, yeah. Nice, Iffy. Yeah, I had that happen, too. That's a nice one. So, yeah, Stumpy is now a wyvern. Stump of Rex is now wyvern. I am not going to pursue the arms. Like, honestly, the people at Trenchworks have been through enough, and I'm not going to finish this model. So I'm not actually going to pursue the arms. I'm just going to go with it, guys. We're just going to run with it, okay? Maybe we'll do a conversion. There we go. Actually, let me grab the body. I don't think it's balanced right for a wyvern, sadly, but maybe. Because the connection points for the arms are relatively small, and it would be pretty easy to mimic this scale texture. So, if the pose is correct, maybe we will do it that way. But I haven't had time, obviously, to grab these legs and see how it works as a wyvern. It might work just great because he's kind of rearing up, or she rather is kind of rearing up. So yeah, maybe. But so because of that, and because I wasn't sure what I was going to do, I decided to hold off on getting the body ready. But I probably will glue the head together today. The limbs are cool. Limbs are very cool. But yes, so we now have, no. Sorry, Lorgrim. I'm not going to make the dragon silly. I never take the silly choice. There's a reason for this. The reason that I never take the silly choice is that it does not motivate me to paint the model. Some people do get motivated by making the silly choice, and all the respect if you do. But I don't. I want a cool looking model, not a silly looking model. I'm never motivated to paint the silly. And so I will never opt for the silly option. Much as T-Rex is my spirit animal, I'm not going to go there. Yes, Nomad Zeke. They did not send me the arms because apparently, even though dragons are quadrupeds, legs mean legs, and I should have asked for arms and legs. I asked for legs because dragons are quadrupeds, but no. So, we have hind legs, and we have a head, and that's just where we're going to stay. Don't give Ron shit about it either. I don't want to hear about any of that. It's not Ron's fault. So, and we're not going to take the time away from the valuable schedules of these people for any more of this. So I'm not going to ask for more limbs. Yeah, no bothering Ron about it. Please don't. He probably would feel really bad, and it's not his fault. It's totally communication error. Yeah, Ron is busy, and you shouldn't give him crap about this. Yes, exactly. Well, and it's Trenchworks didn't get it or whatever. It is, but we've done enough of it on this Shadow Raven, so I would like to officially request we do not pursue further. I don't want Ron to go bothering Trenchworks because he feels bad, and Trenchworks is already smothered because I know how busy they are with their resin side of their business. That's why it took so long to get the stuff to me. So I don't want to bother these nice people who I already know, who we have already given enough crap to. We've got enough crap. So that's my official request. Ignore it at your peril. Yes, you can bug around about whatever else you want. But yeah, Did that work on the wing on Friday? Oh, okay, there we go. Oh, yeah. Yes, thank you. Sorry, I missed that in the midst of asking people not to harass my old boss. Ron was my boss for a very brief tenure at Reaper, and then he gave me to Ed because he didn't want to deal with me anymore. So yeah, Chaarondar does have a really nice head. A little more Warcraft dragon. It's very nice. I like the spininess of it. It'll look really good with this treatment on it. So, but in the meantime, we're gonna work on claws today. We're gonna work on continuing our faux iridescent effect, which is easier than you'd think. But yeah, even David liked my silly faux iridescent effect, even though I dry brushed, part of it. Yeah, so we'll do that. So I'll essentially make my job put on my to-do list tonight. Actually, let's just put on the to-do list to wash dragon parts and prep. Boop. Wash. Yes, even dragon parts go on my to-do list. I love the Todoist app. Wash dragon parts and prep. There we go. That way we can start working on the head and the body also. But for today, let's just rock out with our bad selves. So for those who missed the earlier stream, the colors I've been using are Ultramarine Shadow for the base. So if you wonder what that beautiful blue is, that's Ultramarine Shadow, and everybody should own some of it. I have a bit of a transition color that I've mixed with Dragon Green and a little bit of Phantom Glow, and that is necessary. If you look, hold on, let me get in focus. So if you look, we do have that transition color in here and in there before we go up to this much brighter Phantom Glow color. And the brighter Phantom Glow color is actually, after we do like 4 drops of this and 1 drop of this, or 5 to 1, we actually take that mixture and just add white to it. Because I like the additional bit of yellow and warmth that this gives to this. This was a little bit too pasty. So I started going in that direction. So that's how we got where we are. And these are the colors that I used for that transition. I essentially wanted a blue-green faux iridescent. And when you do blue and green together, they necessarily do end up looking teal. And so that's why I went that with this. Alrighty. And sticky note just says brush dragon's teeth. Yes, exactly. Yeah. There was snow in Washington State, and David's dad went skiing yesterday. So, like, pretty crazy. No, I really don't want to, Pendrake. I just don't want to. I'm not going to. The thing is, like I said, I'm not planning to finish painting this dragon. This dragon is very much a Bones 6 special. And I've said before that I wouldn't paint a dragon on stream because it just takes too darn long. And you guys get bored because we're doing more of the... It's a bunch of the same stuff once you get the initial stuff settled down. So I'm going to go for Gnawed Bone. I want actually pretty warm. Because we've got so much really vibrant color in here, we can't go too gray with our bone. You have to go more of a kind of a tawny yellow bone, or richer bone. Yeah. Ultramarine Shadow is the awesome. So I love Gnawed Bone recently. I love it because it's a great replacement for Stained Ivory, which used to be out there. It's part of a fast palette. I think it's the Adventure colors. Don't quote me on that. If you want something very similar, Desert Sand is similar, but as you can see, it is more gray. And today I don't want that gray. So that's why I'm not going in that direction. I'm also going to go with a very saturated and rich color to shade this. I'm going to mix it up, Russet Brown and Gnawed Bone. Now, I just want to make sure. I think the rest of these scales are all really scales on this side, so I didn't really miss anything. Yeah, more or less. Okay, we'll just go with it. So we'll do some colors on the horns here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a dark area at the root, a kind of a streaky, kind of lined area in the middle. And for the big ones, I want to darken the tips, probably with a really dark color like walnut. So we'll do kind of a fade from dark to light and up. Rich green is very, very blue. I would go with brilliant green before I went with rich green War Shadow. That said, dragon green is a color that I recommend all the time. This is one of our highest coverage greens as far as brightness goes. So if you want a brighter green that also has decent coverage, which some of those others are a little weak in the coverage department, dragon is what you want. So if you are looking for a good high coverage, relatively saturated, medium bodied, standard green, this is your baby. Just to let you know. But you can use Brilliant Green 9227. Or, right? Yeah, 9227. Yeah, I know. It's out of focus because it's down there. It'll get in focus when I bring it up here. But first I have to mix colors. My focal point is always here. So when I put stuff down here, it does fuzz out. So we're going to do 3 drops of russet, and I'm going to do 1 drop of Nodbone. I'm going to see where that gets me. I'm putting it over walnut, so it's going to be a little darker. I'm going to see how this works. I may need to go down to pure russet. So what we're doing here is we're going to establish kind of a dark ground for our bone, our spurs. Yeah, I probably need to do a little bit of a mix. So this makes this color. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to do... Yeah, the problem with... yeah, it's too many sessions no matter what. Yeah. I mean, think about it, Pendrake. Like, if you remember back when I did Dance of Death, it took us months, and that's all we were working on. Now, given we were only doing it 1 day a week, but it still would take us so long, and we'd always be painting the same thing. And... that's a real danger for a stream. I mean, yeah, you guys would think you'd like it because, you're all into it and you want to see me paint a whole dragon, but the majority of people on Twitch are much happier with a bit of variety so they can learn different things tuning in every day. The problem with dragons is you learn the same thing every day because you're doing the same thing every day. And so I feel that it's not... what I really want to do. I made an exception for this stream during the Kickstarter because, 1, this dragon is really cool and we're trying to get to the goal that it's part of. And 2, it's only a couple weeks. It's only a couple weeks of dragon. And I don't often paint a dragon. So I can probably find enough things to talk about in the course of painting this. Yeah, pretty much. Flip, 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 baby. But yeah, so okay, now I'm going to mix a slightly lighter color. These are some big horns. So where normally with tiny little horns, I could get away with just like 2 or 3 colors. I'm going to have to mix a larger gamut on this one. And I'll go up straight to Nodbone and some white. I do love this Nodbone. What am I going to do when I run out? I'm going to have to go to ReaperCon and rifle through the paint rooms. All right, get these thinned down. That might be too thin. We'll find out. But I do want to kind of blend them. So this is a very pretty color progression, as you can see. It's a beautiful warm brown color progression. Like, it's really, really nice. Sadly, my dark one ended up in the wrong place, but you can still see it. Now I'm going to add a drop of white into the Nodbone, because I want it to go just a little bit more light than that. I do want some differences. This will also help it to cover. And we will go back to doing the iridescent effect on the wings. But I wanted to do this first. I want to spend some time doing a little bit of something different. So if you want to see me do more iridescent-y stuff, you're just going to have to tune in tomorrow. Maybe later today. We'll see what we get to. All right, I need a nice brush for this. I don't need a very good tip on my brush out the gate. I need one that'll carry a bit more paint. So I think I'm going to go for my weird little Optimo, which is a short, thick, wedge-shaped brush. It has a good tip, though, so I can still do stuff. So let's get closer, get into focus. How focus? There, focus. There, focus. Wow, I went really close. Now this is about right. Yeah, that's about right. Okay, slide these. They can probably stay a little bit in frame so you can see what I'm doing. And I just want to make sure that I am... Wow, I'm really close in focus. All right. Yeah, good enough. We'll see. If it's out of focus, then warn me as we progress. So I'm going to start by doing a streaky brushstroke, but I'm not trying necessarily to be perfect with my streaks. I'm just trying to lay down this slightly lighter than my base color. I want a few of these streaks to go down toward the bottom of the bone. Yeah, I do need to get a little bit more in focus. I want it in focus here. This is more comfortable. There we go. Excellent. So you can see the warmer color on there. And you shouldn't expect to see streaks at this point. This is just laying down the groundwork to make this color over here look better. But I want to leave that very dark walnut at the base, and then I'm going to bring the tip of the bigger horns up to that walnut again. I could just leave the tip, but I tend to like to blend it in as the last step, so I'll probably wipe a lot of it out and then come back in. And this is a little bit different because normally with this kind of horn or bone, you would bring it all up and your white highlight, your off-white highlight would be your last step. But here it's not, it's still your last step, but it's a little bit different. Like you throw a dark stage in between to get the dark tip on there before you go back. So we'll demo that. There we are. So we're bringing all those. You can see the difference of the color now. Again, we're using a very, very warm saturated brown because all of these colors we're working with are very bright. And if you tried to put a gray brown on here, it would look awful. It would clash. It would look ugly. It would not be harmonious. So instead, we're using a really vibrant brown, which is russet brown, mixed with our most currently vibrant kind of shadow bone color, which is gnawed bone. But you can use stained ivory if you still have a bottle of it. Slide this down. There we are. Yeah. All right, so we're setting that up. I'm going to set up this. I didn't get all of this actually. Gonna have to go back in. Now, even though I can't really see the streaking color, like the streaks of color going down toward the root, I can see them when I get really close. So I totally did not paint the back of that. Good job, Anne. We'll remedy that. We need some walnut anyway. Just another example of not finishing the dragon. Hey, Dogfather, how's it going? So, I haven't looked at the Kickstarter. Let's look at the Kickstarter and find out what's awesome on the Kickstarter right now. I have not consulted the Kickstarter. And I just dropped a piece of paper on the floor, which is under my feet and annoying me. There. Ha! All right, so. Reaper Bone 6. What are we at? Ooh. What are we looking to unlock? Oh, okay. So we're getting there. We're almost to the dragon. We're almost to unlocking this dragon. Just another 15, a little bit more than 15K. Awesome. And after that, well, I haven't seen the rest of these. Wolfpack, I saw. Oh, yeah. The owl bears are up, guys. We have to get to the owl bears because they're so cool. I love the totem and the nest. Like, I'm totally going to buy in for that. And then the rest of the Briarwood stuff we have Shimmer Scale now. We have Shimmer Scale. That's pretty cool. Ooh, and Hellborn Heroes. This is good. Different Hellborn characters. Fantastic. Good deal. Sweet. Awesome. Well, these are some good levels coming out. Let's see here. Back to what we were doing. But yeah, that's only 15k till Chaarondar unlocks. That's or Chaarondar. I'm not sure if Ron is how Ron is saying it. Yeah, I was just saying that outside of Seattle, they got enough snow this weekend for David's dad to go skiing yesterday. Dogfather. So yeah, there's some freakish snowy weather in various parts of the world of the US. I'm gonna paint the back of this because I know I'm gonna want to come back here and do it. So I like to use walnut as a basis for bone always, as far as the darkest shadow. It's not a good wash for bone if you want to do that. Actually, wood stain brown is one of the better ones in MSP. It's a pretty transparent color when you like try to put wood stain on. It's 9160, but it makes a fantastic bone wash. So if that has not been on your radar, then pick some up and consult my video on making your own wash on my YouTube channel. I just did it. Been doing a bunch of fundamentals of mini painting videos on my YouTube channel. I am going to try to go up to 2 videos a month on there. Let's see if I can do it. Uh-oh. When you knock your super glue over, you definitely need to rescue that before it goes all over the carpet. Thank you. Thank you for the Anne general stuff. So yeah, my YouTube is on there. It is the second link from the bottom. Please give me a follow. I would love to. I would love it if you did. I'm trying to get to 1,000, and we just hit 500 the other day, so I'm super excited. Yeah, so we're over halfway there now on my YouTube. Very, very happy. Okay, so I could go and block all these. This is a really cool area. And I can't wait to paint this for you guys. Like, I really love the interior of the wing here. The detailing is just fantastic on this dragon, by the way. I love the scale patterns. Like, I really, really like them. And I love this where the scales are kind of growing into spikes. Like, this is all really, really cool. Yeah, totally hit up my YouTube, Smoth, because I have been doing a bunch of fundamental stuff. I'm actually going to do one on dry brushing this month, which I'm actually excited for. And if you think dry brushing is simple, like I have an entire page of notes on this, guys. Like that's how much I'm trying to break down these things for you. So there's a lot. Let's just say there's a lot. And yeah, so hopefully, Smoth, you enjoy those videos. There are, I think, 6 right now. But yeah, I've been doing one a month because I wanted to make sure that I could be consistent and commit to doing one a month for sures. And I drop some water into this. But now that I've kind of gotten in the rhythm of it, I think I can do 2 per month. And so I'll try. Probably try to put out one every 2 weeks. They're short, and so they're they're simple. Actually, it takes longer to break them down to write out all my notes and write out an outline than it does to actually shoot the video. But yeah, since I already have such a big workload throughout the month, I was being cautious and only doing one fundamentals video a month. But now I feel like I could do 2. And of course, if you are on my Patreon, you get early access to those. So you will get them at least a week, usually 2 weeks, before anybody else in the actual world gets them. And my Patreon is patreon.com/paintingbig. And it is a bargain right now. It doesn't matter what level you're at. You'll get early access to those YouTube videos no matter what. And I do have a $2 level, which is very inexpensive. Right now, that is a huge bargain. Actually, anything is a huge bargain because we've been doing this Patreon for over 3 years. So no matter what level you sign on at, even if you're just minimum, you get at least 36 lessons. And if you're at a higher tier, you get all the lower tier value as well. So it will take you a while to go through all those PDFs and videos. So now we're going to go in and we're going to like go and put lighter streaks in, but we're going to build them up on top of our previous streaks. So let's get this out of frame because it's making us a little dark here. And you can see how we can bring this up. And if we feel like we've got like, maybe they're ending a little bit, I want them to look somewhat blended. That's the goal here. So if I have to go back to my previous color and kind of break it up a little bit, or make sure that it goes all the way to the bottom and that I'm getting a kind of gradient effect, I totally will do that. And I've got my walnut open now too, so if I really want to, I can come back and accentuate that really dark shadow at the bottom and also do some reverse streak pattern to, again, to blend it in and make sure that it looks cool. I mean, this is how they grow, right, Iffy? If you look at your own fingernails, you will see the streaks. See them? Because they grow out in streaks this way. And it's the same with dog claws, and it's the same with pretty much any claws. This is the texture they've got. So you can either do it real subtle or you can do it really, really strong, but this is how it grows. I don't know if I've done that yet, Shadow Raven. I thought I had, but maybe I only did it on stream. Let me add that to the ever-growing list of things to do for Patreon. 1 second. I mean, you guys are going to get it right now, obviously. I'll look it up on my Patreon and see if I've done it. There. But yeah, I also didn't like Horns and Claws until I think it was Jennifer Haley who like did this, and then I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. That's actually how it looks in real life. Albeit much more subtle usually. So it also helps if you are trying to duplicate something like water buffalo horns or muskox horns or, you know, cow horns. If you go and actually look up, as usual, actual examples on the interwebs. Use the interwebs. It is there for you. And that helps you get a more natural sort of thing. And you can see how I'm like breaking it up now. These are very irregular on these, and it's almost more like wood grain on this big one. And that's intentional. I want it to be more irregular because it's more interesting and more organic. If you can stay pretty regular down here on the little guys, but on the big guys, the big horns, you've got a lot of room. Then it essentially becomes freehand. And you got to question, you know, what do I want to do here? And to make it more interesting, I'm definitely doing it more irregular. And then I'll double down on that as I highlight. So I missed a spot here too. Got too much blue. Got the blues. Gotta get rid of those blues. Only a little though. There. We'll blend that in. Excellent. Technically, now that I'm looking at it, this claw in the middle should also be brown. I don't know why I missed it the first time. There. So this is actually pretty cool. Like we're getting nice accent color now. It's a neutral accent, but it's going to be a very light color. So we can also, I need to look at some of this down here as well because I've got these two marked as bone colored and then I've got these two blue ones and I've got these. So I think actually I'm going to come in and make these bone. That way everything is, this one is definitely a scale, so that's going to stay blue, but there. That'll be a nice kind of broken up area, just like this is a nice broken up area. It's just the concept, iffy. Like, it was just like with the round muscle masses, right? It's just like, and I struggled with it too. Like, before Sergio's class, I absolutely struggled with that. I was doing, a lot of times I would do it, like I would suit the shape of the highlight to the shape of the area, but I didn't understand why I was doing it, and it wasn't intentional. So I would still screw up and get in trouble. But it's just like breaking stuff like this down to the point where you can really grok it, you can really internalize it, then it's easy. Then it's simple. But up to that point, everybody's in the dark. And the purpose of me is to try to break this stuff down for you guys so that you just get it like it's natural, right? Like you say, like, why did I struggle with this? It's easy. When you hit that, when you've hit that realization and you understand it, that's what I strive to do. Because then it is easy. Suddenly you'll never go back. You'll be able to like think that way. Like, how would this grow? What direction, what ridges, would be on it? Everybody is that way. Everybody is. That's what I try to specialize in, because I think that is the problem I have with a lot of mini painting classes. And of course, I still take miniature painting courses when Kirill came and Sergio and all that. Like, I still do. And I feel like the biggest, and I think this is not just miniature painters, but people across the globe, is it's very hard to remember where you were as a beginner, and it's very hard to break things down to that level. And a lot of people just don't think about, like, they're creatives, but they don't necessarily think about why they do what they do. They can tell you what they do, but not why, right? It takes time with yourself to figure out why you do things. But I happen to like that time. That's like what I live for. So for me, it's very rewarding to unpack it. It's why I'm doing these fundamentals videos. Like, I find it, like, I was super thrilled that I could get an entire page of notes on how to dry brush. Because I was able to break it down to a level where I felt like it would make sense. And that's true with all of my fundamentals videos, even the base coating one. Like, you should watch the base coating one if you struggle with having brush marks in your base coat, or struggle with, having irregularities in your base coat. Like, absolutely watch it. I'm breaking this stuff down for you. It's what I live to do. Because I am one of those people who likes to know not just how do I do this, but why do I do this? Why does it work? And I'm to the point in my life now where if they don't give it to me, I'm going to run out and find out. If you don't tell me why of this, I'm going to run out and find out why. I'm going to work it until I have a reason for you. We did lots of mixes up to this point. War Shadow. Lots of mixes. So base is walnut. This is russet brown with a tiny bit of walnut in it, so like 4-1. This is russet brown with gnawed bone in it, again about 4-1. This is gnawed bone 4-1 russet brown, and then this is gnawed bone with 1 drop of pure white. I'm always going with 4-1 or 1-4 in general as far as my ratios, but I might flip them here and there. So we have only worked with the darkest 3 colors. We have a pentad here, by the way. Have you all noticed? Since I talk about pentads incessantly now, since I've been covering them on my Patreon incessantly. So we've essentially, our mid color ends up being this, and that's what we're up to right now. So I'm going to use a lot of this mid color on these horns, and then our highlight colors are going to be these guys. Yeah, and that's why I'm not afraid to do that stuff on camera. A lot of people also would just not show you anything until they had it really dialed in. But I really don't mind falling on my face in front of you guys and making the mistake, because now that I've made it and you see me make it, and like you say, you can follow along logically in your head. So if you're really watching, you get the same value out of me making that connection as I did. And you don't then have to make that connection for yourself. It's already there because you were able to clearly watch my reasoning process. So That's where I think that it's a shame that, I mean, I love it that you all tune in, don't get me wrong, but I love it when you also can pay enough attention to really kind of watch and see the process, because there are times when I do that, and if you are paying attention, it means it's a thing that you don't have to learn. Now, you can always go back and watch the VODs, and you'll get the same value. You won't be able to ask questions, obviously, live, but you'll get that aha moment, hopefully, along with me. But yeah, I've been trying to do blue-green fade for a while now because there's a project that I want to use it on. And I've always kind of like been dissatisfied with it until I tried to do the blue first. And to go up to teal. Like, I've been trying to do this kind of transition for a while. I did manage to figure out that I needed to go up to teal, but realizing that I had to go up to a slightly warmer teal was valuable. Yep. So I switched to a longer, narrower brush here, as you'll see. Back on the Da Vinci Maestro. This one is getting a bit threadbare, so I may have to retire it soon. So I'm going to go over again. I'm going to try to... On these smaller horns, I'll still do a little bit of irregularity. But in general, I'll be keeping it pretty standard. If you can, though, throw in little bits of irregularity, like this one, where I just stopped that streak, but then put 2 dabs down below. Or where I'm doing up here, where it looks more like wood grain, and there's some off-center stuff. Rather than the straight up, like this. It will make your surfaces look more organic if you introduce irregularity. If it's not all regular stripes. Oh, all right. Have fun, Shadow Raven, with your bouncing baby cows. There we go. Get all my little stripies in. Do maybe some little irregular stuff over here. Oh, I wanted to tell you, Quindy, the 20th. That's Wednesday, right? Yeah. I'm supposed to have my power turned off that morning. So this Wednesday, I'm going to try to get on anyway, because last time they told us they were shutting the power off, they lied. But just so you know, guys, we might have to get canceled on Wednesday because they need to fix a power line pole, and so they have to turn off the power to do that. So yes, I may be powerless to teach you on Wednesday. Straight, when I know when to retire a brush. When I'm seeing here, let me show you. I showed the difference between a fresh version of this brush and the one I'm currently using the other day. Let me grab it. Is that one? Yeah. Is this one? Nope, that's the other one. I have a bunch of brushes over here waiting in the wings. So let me show you the difference between these guys. The one on the left is the one I am currently using. The one on the right is a fresh, new, unsullied version of this same brush. So we have, you can see, I haven't rubbed all the stuff off the barrel, and I haven't gotten paint all over it. So this brush is thinned down to the point where I'm starting to get more fray hairs. So I'm starting to get more hairs just kind of coming off that I have to chop off. My brush is thin like this, I think, because I rinse them so thoroughly, so often. I'm constantly rinsing and reloading. So I never lose the tip on my brushes like some people do. It always thins down. And essentially, I don't need power for anything, right? But it's my theory that the reason my brushes degrade this way is that I rinse them a ton. On the other hand, because I rinse them a ton, I never have to clean them. We see some darkening at the base of this one, but even then it's still holding an absolute perfect razor point. Now, there is stuff that I can do with the brush in this stage, which is easier with it in this stage than that, which is very tiny, fine micro details, like on my sacrifice bust. Let me grab her real quick and I'll show you guys what I mean. 1 second. So, for those who are new, this is my crystal brush entry from the last crystal brush competition ever. I'm going to show you the back because the front has nudity. She has very fine freehand on her, and she has really fine cloth texture as well. So if you get really close, you can see that I've done all the stitching on all the embroidery, and all of that stitching also has highlights on it. The camera is failing me a little bit, but you get the idea. And also my finger for reference to show you how tiny this is. The thing about Sacrifice is that she looks much larger than she is when I take pictures of her because of the fine level of detail. And then when you actually get my hand in there and you realize like that this is actually a 1/16 scale bust, it's actually quite tiny. Let me put her next to Mr. Grumpy's a big 110. But to give you an idea, your standard bust size versus Sacrifice. So she's quite tiny. Hey, Roll One to Explode. Thank you for the raid. I'm just showing off some super fine detail because we were talking about brushes. So when I'm doing this sort of thing, which is insanity, I am actually better off using a brush that's a little bit beat up. And the reason is, so here's my worn one on the left, and here is the brand new one on the right. And the reason is that you can see that on this one, the tip actually narrows longer, has a longer taper to it, right? We've lost some of the body that fills out. Oh, yeah, go get food. Thanks, Roll. So hi, everybody. Hi, new people. I'm Anne. I work for Reaper Miniatures. Obviously, I'm on their stream. We do a lot of things on this stream, and right now we are actually painting a faux iridescent dragon wing. But I stopped to work to show kind of a brush illustration. And yes, Quindy just linked all of my various things in chat. I also have my own stream I do on Saturday mostly for my patrons, but really for anybody who wants to come hang out. And then I do a YouTube that has basics of mini painting, fundamentals of mini painting videos on it, along with some of my streams that I thought were valuable. So yeah, so when I'm trying to do crazy, crazy tiny little stitches like this, I do find that the longer worn down taper, I can do it easier. So I can get these tiny, tiny, some of these are just ridiculous. Like all these tiny little ones around this little area here. Like, yeah, there's some pretty ridiculous tiny brush strokes. You can see where I've gotten even tinier in some of these really thin areas, like in here. So, hey, Jazzian. Let's see, we're in focus. In focus there. So now you can see those tiny little lines. So yeah, so I will use my worn out brushes. I'll even keep them. Like at this point, I really should stop doing regular painting with this worn down one and switch to the fresh one, because this one is at the perfect state for me to do micro. So if I have to do something, like if I'm working on a competition entry and I want to do something like insanely fine, I really want to have a brush that's kind of at this state. Now, if it thins down a little bit more, it's going to be completely busted. Actually, I think I might have one of those. Hold on. I think I just busted a brush in the other room. Let me see if it looks different. 1 second, guys. This is educational. Yeah, this one is, I think, really busted. There will come a point when it's lost so many hairs that it kind of won't hold a decent tip anymore. Yes, that's based on Moorish architecture patterns in Spain. So Islamic architecture patterns that were when when they invaded Spain during the Crusades. There were a lot of buildings that were built with more Moorish architecture designs. There's a lot of really awesome architecture in Spain, and so I based it on those designs. I like using architecture for freehand patterns on cloth. I think that they tend to translate really well. Okay, so these are really close to each other. But the one on the right is even more needly. Do you see it? Do you see it how it's kind of gone kind of wispy here? Like, so you can see how close this one is to like going this direction. This one is even more worn, and it's really not holding together great. So when I try to paint with it, it tends to split more easily. And at that point, it's really probably time to retire it. Yeah, Alhambra style. Exactly. Exactly, Venge. I have a whole book specifically on that style of architecture, and I've always wanted to do something on it. So you can see how just a little bit, the one on the left is a little bit more full. So you can see how this one's going to get to this one's state really quick. It's almost there. It's almost broken. So when it gets to that almost broken point, I can do amazing things with it as long as the tip holds together. This one, as I've been painting with it in the other room, has not held together very well. There comes a point where you lose so many hairs, you lose the integrity of the brush. That's why brush construction is why you pay for a really good brush that's been constructed, really painstakingly to hold a great point. It's not easy. It takes a bit. Yeah, so essentially especially when you're working with a round like this, where it's a Kolinsky sable round, and its whole point is to do fine line and fine detail and to carry paint reliably and to place it reliably. When it fails to do that and it's, looking like this, then it's time to retire it. It's almost not even worth keeping it as a mixing brush because at this point it has so few hairs that it's really not going to function for you. So, yeah. You need at least a few hairs for it to be a decent mixing brush. Which is why I just use more of a craptastic watercolor sable from, just a lower grade one, a $5 sable. It's the cheapest brush I have right now, so it got used for a mixing brush. But anyway, so does that explain the whole brush thing? Do you see the differences between the fresh brush and the used brush and the abused brush? Fresh brush goes back over here. It'll come in eventually. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is straight. If the brush can no longer do what it's supposed to do, like its ideal purpose is, time to retire. And if it's consistent, right? Like sometimes you can manage to clean it and maybe get it to hold together a little longer. But if it's a matter of thinning down like this one, in fact, I probably should transition to a different brush. Hey, let's use a synthetic. I wonder if I can do this with a synth. I actually have a synthetic Master's Touch that I have been just kind of sitting on. I acquired it. I think it was super on sale last time I was in Hobby Lobby. And I was like, you know what? I should do some stuff with this. So let's do it. Let's challenge the synthetic. Let's do it. Actually, these horns are a pretty good place to do it, too. I don't need super thin strokes yet, but I will. So yeah, let's use a synthetic brush. So it's orangey. Usually they're orange or white. They may have darkening at the tip that they're trying to put on there and tell you that it's a sable, but it's really not. It's a synthetic. Synthetic means it's a plastic bristle. Some synthetics are definitely better than others. You usually are going to pay more for the ones that are better because it took more technology to develop and probably to create. So let's see what we can do with this. I'm going to actually grab my next highlight and I'm going to place it. Actually, you know what? Let's do the dark part first. Yeah, I very carefully keep down in my drawer here, I have a selection of fresh brushes, Jazzian. I very much keep I have a back stock of the Da Vinci Maestro Series 10 size ones. Because, And you never, ever want to use your fresh synthetic brush to mix paint, ever. The synthetic is already going to degenerate much faster than the sable. So do not do it. Unless it's already a wrecked synthetic, do not use it to mix paint. So when I'm adding water to my paint right now, I almost used it out of habit, and I completely stopped because it's going to destroy the brush so much faster than with a natural hair. Not even joking. But yeah, it's useful if you acquire a couple of each brush and you keep a kind of a nice little storage compartment of them. Actually, I might have a good... Yeah, I think this one has been somewhat used, but it's not super fresh like the other one. I do have a couple of points where my DaVinci's got a little mixed up there. Yeah. All right, I have a transition brush. Good. I'm going to put this one back down here. Ooh, I have a Citadel dry brush. That'll be fun. Let's play with that. Ah, dear. As I try to figure out which brush needs to be my replacement brush for... Okay, that's definitely a fresher brush. There. All right, we figured it out. I now have a replacement for my DaVinci Maestro that I was using. Excellent. But yeah, I keep a selection of brushes back. Oh, and this actually also explains, let's just talk a little bit about the Rublev brush, which is a Russian brush that Kirill uses. So that's the barrel. You do have to order them from Russia. Right now, that's probably not easy. But they are, you look at how long and thin that is. So essentially, these are Kolinsky sables, and they're as long and thin as the brush that I had beat up. And that's why these guys are actually excellent for super fine detail. So Kirill uses these brushes, and he's able to do all of his super fine texture work with them. So that is the thing with those brushes. Now, what you do not want to ever buy is something called a liner brush. It's going to look long and thin, but it's going to be really long. The longer the brush, the less control you have. Especially with a long, thin brush. All right. Oh, boy. All of these brushes down here. I really have to go through and see who's really, really fresh and new. But that's not true, Mac Attack. When I worked for Games Workshop, I would go through their sables. When we got a new shipment in at the store, I would go through all the brushes and I would hand pick ones to use for painting at the store. You can find a good brush. You just need to know what to look for. Sables are sables. Some of them are better constructed than others. So let's bring this in and see what I can do. I'm going to darken down the tip, and I'm not going to worry too much about getting nice blended streaking at first. I am going to probably drop a little more water into this walnut. If I want it to blend, I need a little more water. If I don't want to get really bold brush strokes. The walnut now is probably thinned down to at least a 2-to-1. Or sorry, yeah, 2-to-1 paint to water. It's quite soupy at this point. If I pick it up on my brush, it's a little bit transparent. You can still see you get a bold line out of it because that's just walnut. You know, I worked for them, and I did not have the great experience working for them, but I've gotten past it. I've gotten past it, Mac Attack. Enough so that I actually just put in a GW order the other day and ordered a model because I really liked it. And I'll probably paint it for Golden Demon. So I also ordered some of their contrast paints so that I could reverse engineer them and teach you guys how to make your own. Because that's what my YouTube channel is for. Yeah, I mean, you've just got to learn which brands are, like, you know, are solid. Like, there definitely is a difference among synthetic brands. Like, not all synthetics are created the same. And so going to start bringing this in. Going to change the direction that I'm working so that I can see and so that I can have a more natural brush stroke. I have two different brush strokes that I employ. One is the sideways stroke and one is the up and down. And they're actually within the same 90-degree arc, so my brush control muscles are tuned that way. Now, as you can see, it is harder for me to get a really thin line with a synthetic. You can, and that's like, okay, so this is all relative, right? Most of you are not trying to get the super, super thin lines that I'm trying to get. But I can do decently. Like, I can get a decently thin line with this. I can't aspire to Kolinsky level with this. I can get close, though. So, I mean, Jennifer Haley, back in the day, when she was teaching, she'd tell people, you know, I've done a lot of really good work with synthetic brushes. The thing is, they break down fast. They're much more sensitive because the plastic just doesn't have the resilience of a natural fiber. Now, as technology progresses, I expect that brush technology will also progress. Reverse engineering. That's how I did on most of the great stuff that I did for Master Series, you know. Like, there were things that I definitely just kind of compared as far as functionality and viscosity and thinnability. There are a lot of different things you can compare between paint lines to kind of figure out what's going on and how to make your own. So I'm going to darken down the tips on some of these bigger ones, and I'm going to highlight in between. But only on the big ones. The little ones still get like fresh, sharp, white, pointy tips. I'm going to imply that only the really old, big claw horns get blackened tips. And since nobody has seen a Chaarondar in person in reality, I can get away with it. I can make up my natural rules as long as I'm consistent with them. So darken down the tips there. I think I'm going to darken this just a little bit more, so I can get a decently thin line. What I think I'll do here, let's just make this an experiment. I will use this Master's Touch synthetic until it starts to curl. And we're gonna count the number of sessions it takes. I can guesstimate. I use this about halfway. I picked this up about halfway through the stream. So we will essentially see how long it takes for this brush to be no longer usable for this sort of thing. And what I usually tell people is, if you want to use synthetics, buy a good synthetic first off. Get a quality synthetic. None of these like $1 or $2 brushes. Quality synthetic will run you between $5 and $7. And I need to touch that up. And then only use like your best synthetics for detail work. And then that way you can, by using them less, you can prolong their life for the times when you really need a good detail brush. In the long run, you're going to go spend a lot more using synthetics than you're going to in using natural hairbrushes. But I know some people like to use synthetics just because they don't want to use natural hairbrushes. That's fair. Just be aware. All right, let's get our next highlight color going. Yes, happy post-Easter. I have to go over to the grocery store today and see if there are sales on candy that I actually like. There's only like 2 things that I actually like, but it's worth going and seeing. I don't think they even do that anymore, do they, Mac? It seems like they're reducing their stores. But yeah, I know. They do that. They have done in the past. Jazzy, I missed that rotate them as you go as far as rotating the brushes. I just use one till it's dead, and then, or till it's almost dead, put it aside to be a superfine and go into the next brush. I try not to be using more than one of my DaVinci Maestro Series 10 size ones at any given point. Just because it makes more sense to just work with one brush until I need a new brush. Otherwise, I'm going to have brushes in various stages of like decomposition, which annoys me because we all love to whip out a fresh brush, right? If I have all my brushes in use at the same time, there is no fresh brush. Oh, bah. I think that, yeah, you can maybe postpone it a little bit with that, Jazzion. If you're paying attention, of course, you can use the script on one side of the brush as a reference and try to alternate. But once your brush starts getting a curl, it's just going to curl. it's still not gonna hold up the way a sable will. Because it's just the nature of the abrasion. Plus, if it doesn't get a big curl, it'll start to fuzz at the tip. That's the other thing you'll notice. I mean, I used to use a lot of synthetics, so. Dragon Day. You can train it. You can try to train it, which would involve essentially getting some hair conditioner or like Master's brush soap, the pink soap, or something like that. A cake brush conditioner and cleaner. You want to shape the brush into the point you want, and you want to just pretty much leave it. Do get it out and work with it. I do find sometimes that a brush that may be recalcitrant in the beginning can be trained through use, along with reshaping it nicely after every session and letting it sit with the conditioner on it in the correct shape. If your brush is really effed, then any good supplier is going to replace it for you. So like Dick Blick has a replacement policy. So if it comes in the mail and it's just kind of like wonky. So putting in lighter streaking on this and trying to emphasize the randomness of the pattern that I had picked up in the first place. As long as it helps if it's also a moisturizer, Jazzian, too. Because, although I guess for synthetics it doesn't, but for natural hair it does. I don't know if I don't think hair gels normally have moisturizers, but I could be wrong on that. I haven't used hair gel since the 80s. Literally. I'm going to date myself there. But yeah, you can sometimes reshape doing that. If you use Blick, they will always stand by their brush guarantee. Send the brush, contact the customer service department at Blick, and they will send you a new brush. You may need to mail the other brush back to them. I don't know what their policies are like these days, because I have a lot of brushes, and so I'm still working through my backlog. Though I have a Dick Blick gift card, but I've been holding off until I really need an art supply. Yeah, if you're doing speed painting, then a synthetic is usually just fine for you, because you're not doing this real fine stuff that I'm doing. If you want to level up your painting and you're noticing that it's frustrating for you to do fine detail, that's when I say get a good sable. Even if you hold that good sable in reserve and you only get it out for when you're doing like eyeballs and details. Although this is pretty good. This is a pretty good brush. It's doing a decent job at getting these areas, getting these fine lines. It is super fresh though, like it is fresh out of its tube today. So we'll see how long it holds up. I'm willing to be pleasantly surprised. So depending on how light you want these horns to go is how much area you want to cover over with these lighter areas, lighter colors. I kind of am feeling like I want to keep the horns a little bit dark. Just because she's supposed to be not a very nice dragon. So we will see. She's supposed to be pretty wicked. Wants to raise the countryside and everything. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. If your brush goop has conditioner in it, then that's, I think, the best. People have come up with all sorts of stuff to preserve synthetics for longer. So, I mean, do your research. I have no problem using natural hairbrushes, so, and I love Kolinsky sables. I would have a really hard time doing really super fine detail like I tend to adore. I'd have a really hard time going back to synthetics on that, I think. I would also get frustrated at the amount of money I'd have to blow on brushes as they broke down, because I paint a lot. So I'm starting to get a little bit of a split on the point. I can I show you this? Let's see if we can get close enough to see. A little bit of a split on the point. See that? So that's an interesting trend. And look at that split down the middle. That's an interesting trend too. So I'm going to rinse it thoroughly. And I never ever crunch my brush on the bottom of the paint jar. I just flip it back and forth in the water. You don't really need to smush it against the side or any of that. That's just going to help you deform it even faster. Since I'm using thin paint, I don't have any paint in the ferrule yet, I definitely am noticing a compromise tip. And that's with my standards now, okay? So like compromise tip for me is anything that is not perfect. Whereas this brush is still perfectly good for most people to do stuff. But here's your difference. You can definitely see the blunter tip that wants to kind of pull apart on the synthetic on the right versus the Kolinsky here, this is my beat up Kolinsky that I've been using for months and months and months that has paint all over the barrel and is starting to finally die. And it still holds a better point. If I tried to use this brush for months and months and months, it would be done. Like, it would be done in like weeks. It wasn't when I started though. Oh yeah, okay. Synthetics, when you've got your paint club coming over, when you've got newbies coming over, when you're doing a class with new people in it and you're not teaching something like super fine detail or layering where you might need something a little better. Like, totally fair. Totally fair. Use what is inexpensive for you in those cases. But when you are working on your hobby, and if you want to be able to do smoother layering and hit fine details and do like really small stuff really finely and consistently and not have to replace your brush every other day, then invest in a good sable is my advice. You may ignore me if you wish. As I said, a lot of people really don't want to use natural hair brushes, and that is absolutely up to you. All is fair. If it works for you, if you can make it work for you, do it. This is purely my own experience. And like I said, I'm giving this synthetic a chance, and I'm also being very gentle with it. Like, it is getting only the thinnest paint and the lightest touches on the model. And it did perform pretty well up to this point, and it's still performing okay. If I angle it, if I don't use the part where it's breaking and I turn it, that's another thing, as Jazzy mentioned, you can do to kind of prolong your synthetic life maybe, is if you make a point of turning the brush. If you see that it's getting wide or splitting on one axis, turn it so that you're painting on the narrow edge. Like if we're getting wide here, then turn it so you can paint on the narrow. And then you're kind of spreading the stress around the brush instead of focusing it all. So down here, what we can do is we can pull some of these light lines up into the dark tip. We can also grab some of our earlier color and make sure that we get a little bit more of that irregularly. I don't want every line to go up there, and I don't want them all to go up there to the same extent, but I do want to kind of break it up. But yeah, it's fun to work with the synthetic because I haven't used them for a very long time, and I know there have been advances. Like, I know the synthetics now are much better than the synthetics I used to use. So it's good to refresh your brain set on some stuff like this. Like, you may think you know, but stuff is always advancing. People are always coming out with new products. You know, it's exciting, it's fun. Playing around can be good. And when it's a synthetic brush, it's not very expensive. So it's a very small investment to see if maybe this would be useful for you. So a little bit more like that, and I could probably bring in a little bit more up here. The more area I cover with this lighter color, the lighter this horn is going to look. And I still want to keep a little bit of this irregularity. So that's what I'm working on right now, is spreading out this stuff. I want to keep the darker colors down near the root of the claw though. Now doing a little peak like that, it is sculpted in on this model. And that makes sense, right? Because all of these little sharp things probably grew out and away from this surface. So that's another little horn that's going to come out at some point. There are great details on this dragon. Like, if you really wanted to paint one of these up to really top form, she would reward you, because this dragon is very well done. Oh yeah, Tiddly, that's cool. Yeah, their sables didn't really do it for me, but they're if they do a good synthetic, that might, especially if in the UK or in the EU, maybe you could get a hold of those and give them a try. So I can make it, if I narrow up the point, I can make it do pretty fine lines, but I'm having to work at it. Let's see, where am I? If I look at it, oh, I'm starting to see the tip, the curl. Starting to see it. Wait. I thought I saw it. So here we go. Let's get that comparison brush in here again. I didn't mean for this to be a whole, like, you know, thing on synthetics and why they're weird, but all right, let's see if I can get a good backdrop. So let's see if I can find what I saw. So I can see that the tip on the one is starting to fuzz just a little bit. There's just a little bit of a curve that I'm noticing on the tip, a tiny, tiny micro curve. So I'll try to paint against that and see if I can minimize it. But that curve is also a breakdown of the plastic brush bristle that you're dealing with. And so since it's actually breaking down, trying to paint against the curve probably isn't going to prolong the life of the brush that much. What you're dealing with is just like this super fine little tendrils of plastic that we're working with, and we're forcing them, we're rubbing them again and again against a surface that is slightly abrasive. You know, our paint has matting agents in them, or have matting agents in them, and paints have. And so there's a surface here. And, you know, you are putting, although I'm using very light pressure, we're still putting pressure on the brush. Now, given this is still more than good enough for any, like, random painting experiment you want, I'm pushing this. I'm pushing this because I want to see what I can do with it. Yeah, I'm a Da Vinci girl. But I know a lot of people who love the Rosemary's Tiddly, so totally fair. I really feel like, Tiddly, that brush preference is really, like, it's differences in style and personal, like, the way you handle the brush. So nobody's right and nobody's wrong. It's just find the brush that's the right shape and snap and, you know, resiliency and, you know, handleability. Like, it's getting the brush dialed in for you. I feel like nobody's answer is wrong there on good brushes. There's a brush for everybody, and the brush that you might love, your friend might hate, and both of you could be amazing painters. This happened back in the day. My friend Jennifer Haley and I used to paint together, and she loved a more wedge shape, the miniature series like brushes that are much fatter and more wedge shaped. She loved these, and I wanted, you know, that. So, oh, my poor little guy, he's dried out. But you get the idea. And both of us were doing Golden Demon level work, but we used totally different brushes, and we would never have switched. So that's why it's like, you know, I always tell people, see, if you've got friends who use different kinds of brushes, see if you can just try them. Try a couple and see what one you might like, or, you know, try to catch sales. Use different shapes, use different brands. It's all going to be different. I love Da Vinci and Raphael because I love those long tapered points, and I like the way their brush construction works with my style specifically. But it's definitely, your mileage may vary, and I have a lot of painter friends who love the Rosemary brushes. So. I think some people on this stream, too, who love the Rosemary brushes. Am I wrong, guys? I seem to recall people really, really liking them here in the past and saying so in comments. So we've gone off on a total brush tangent on this stream. Yep, I used Series 7 back in the day when they were really the big thing to use, Black. Yeah, I've got the Rublofs as well. I find they really excel for really super fine detail. But I only ordered the certain shape. I don't remember. I'm in the 111. It's 1110. It's the 1110 series, which is the very narrow round. And that's just right up my alley. I just love doing, like, if I can find a brush that lets me do this, I'm a super happy person. Like, because that's what I live to do. It's all that crazy fine detail and texturing. That's my favorite part of painting. When I can get to that point. Tedious and mind-numbing and so fun. So I'm going to make a little bit stronger highlights here. Once again, I've got a dark tip there. I need to lighten up the one right behind it. I'll lighten that one way up so that I can see the tip on that one. Be a little bit less down. A little bit less. Synthetic for dry brushing. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I've got a set of cheaper Klinskis I was thinking of using with oils, because there certainly is a thing to use Klinskis with oils. So I'm gonna experiment. My oils are on order and are traveling to me this week. I should hopefully get them. Haven't used oils since I was going to college for art, so decided I would get myself some of the orange solvents because I cannot stand turpentine. If I'd used turpentine, it would be absolutely a no on the oils. But got myself some orange solvent, citrus solvent, so I'm excited about that. Yep. Yeah, I love Raphael for details, and they are good at eyes. Yep. But they're different shapes, right? Like I have a super fat, gigantic Raphael that I use just because I like using my gigantic brush on some things. But then I have the ones that are super tapered that I like too. Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't competed for 20 years either, Tidley, and then I went out and got myself a Privateer Press Grandmaster this year. I decided that since my fiance and I were going to Adepticon and he was competing in Golden Demon, but I was not thrilled. I just wanted to see kind of what was going on with Golden Demon this year. I decided to paint something for Privateer Press, and now I have my first trophy in 20 years. Which is kind of crazy. I was not looking to stage a comeback. But now I'm tempted to stage a comeback because then it's like, this old lady, she still got it. We used to, Jennifer and Sue Wachowski and I used to call ourselves the old ladies of mini painting. It was super funny. Even more pertinent now. But yeah, it was fun. It was actually kind of cool. I got the thing that I always like about going and bringing my best to Adepticon is not even so much like it was fun to win the competition, but the best part of the competition was getting the feedback from the judges, two of whom are miniature painters I very much respect, and Eric Swinson and Aaron Lovejoy, and then the two Privateer Press guys who just absolutely loved what I did and thought that it really exemplified the character, and you know, they thought pretty much I'd nailed it, which also makes me happy because, you know, the people who work for the company, they're often the most passionate, some of the most passionate people about it. So that actually was more rewarding than the trophy, although the trophy is super, super awesome looking, and it is currently sitting on my shelf in this room to remind me that I'm not a hack. Yeah, maybe you should make a name. It's fun. It's actually, you know what? I think the comeback is actually more fun than the initial painting because everybody has forgotten us. Like nobody thinks we're a factor. Nobody thinks we're a threat. Little do they know. So it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun to bring it to the younger crowd. Let's just say that. So I did have a great time at Adepticon this year. It was super, super fun time. I mostly just painted, wandered around the vendor hall, wandered up and looked at all the beautiful Golden Demon entries, and and competed in Privateer Press and bought things. And that pretty much is an ideal con as far as I'm concerned. I didn't teach, had a lot of time to hang out, go to dinner with friends, reconnect with miniature painters we hadn't seen since the start of the pandemic. You know, it was great. It was good fun. And I got to see a lot of the Europeans who came over, so it was really nice to see Francesco again, who runs Monte San Savino in Italy, which David and I have been talking about getting to. If we do not get a puppy this year, I told David we should try to do it. We should know in enough time to still arrange travel. Monte San Savino is in November. And is considered pretty much one of the best miniature shows on the planet now. Which is really rewarding for Francesco. Yes. Yeah, never discount the old folks, say the green users. Yes. Never underestimate Bob and Julie. Ever. It is fun, though. It is fun for that reason. I kind of like being the sleeper. Like, I like being the shark. The unknown shark drifting in the shallows. Going doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Ta-da! It's fun. So yeah, maybe I'll actually like make a comeback, and I definitely am doing Golden Demon next year. Now that I've seen what the level was at, where the bar was at Demons this year, now I can set out to reach that bar. It's kind of the exact same thing that I did when I first competed in Golden Demons. Was I went the year before and looked at all the models close up and was like, all right, I can do this. And then the next year I went back and I won 2 Demons. So it's kind of my MO at this point. I like seeing what the bar is at for competition. I keep getting off camera. Yeah, I do like going to cons and not teaching these days. I will say. I liked it. Like, teaching online, I love. And teaching in person is like less and less where I like to be. I think because I've just got so much experience now on Twitch and YouTube, and I really like these formats because it lets me really target. The in-person painting, the in-person teaching, I mean, the advantage of that is just that you can actually troubleshoot people's actual like brush loading, brush stroke, things like that, right? Which you can't, of course, online. You have to kind of troubleshoot not being able to see anything, which is very, very difficult, non-optimal, shall we say. But yeah, I am getting to the point where I much prefer to do online instruction. Because it's pretty, when you're an introvert, it's pretty exhausting to stand up in front of a class for 2 to 8 hours, depending on what you're teaching and where. So still using a synthetic, just so you know. Ooh, 29 months snooing code. Thank you. Thanks for the resub on the Prime. Awesome. Oh, hush, Dragon. You're safe, yes. I know. It's so hard for me to get to you, Jazzian, because of my health issues, along with everything else. But I'm working on that. I started a new physical therapy program. There are 2 guys on YouTube who actually are like, you know what? We're just going to, because it was really hard. Like when I first started physical therapy, there wasn't a whole lot out there. It was like all the physical therapists were like guarding their exercises, which I hate. And so, but now there's these, actually my mom, I have to say thanks, Mom, out loud on the internet. My mom turned me on to this YouTube channel, which is a very, very popular YouTube channel. And I'm very excited. Because, you do physical therapy and it helps you a ton. And then you stop going to physical therapy because it costs money. And then your stuff all gets worse again because you start forgetting with all the exercises, right? Yeah. Old age and treachery will always beat youth and experience. I think not always, but yes, it's a funny quote. Totally. I don't think we even need treachery that often. All right, so we've got some nice, let's back out and look at these. I'm kind of liking the look. Kind of liking the look right now. Yeah, you should come visit us, Jazzian. I would love to meet you. We'll see. We'll see. My back is already improving. So I'm like, you know, because I was starting to think, honestly, guys, and this is, you know, a lot of you can probably identify, even younger people now are having some pretty crazy back issues and shoulder issues. But yeah, you put yourself on a plane and then you're like, you get off and you feel like you've aged 5 years. But yeah, I was starting to doubt whether I'd be able to travel a lot because it was really wrecks me. But I already feel like, I think the strengthening program that I'm going to start, I think should help. Because I do like to travel. I like to go to shows. I like to go, you know, gallivanting around and seeing new things and meeting people and going to miniatures competitions. And so I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure I can still do that. So, all right, let's start putting in some of these light, and I'm going to stay in camera because I keep moving this. Today is like a day where I'm all over the place. So this is our lightest highlight. This is gnawed bone plus a little bit of white, pure white. And I'm just going to focus these highlights in the very center to bring out texture. And treachery is how you win. Oh, yeah. Gunpla is a whole different world. We'll see. First I have to knuckle down because it's, as anybody who's ever done physical therapy knows, it works your butt. Like, you have to work at it. It's not easy. So I got David to agree to put a wall mount in for my stretchy bands. So we'll do that. We'll see how we can get things working again. I've had back issues since I was in high school. All right, so I'm going to I want to bring in that light a lot. I want to lighten this up. And so I'm keeping some of this previous layer at the edges. I want to really focus this light. I don't mind having that crack there. In fact, what I'll do is bring in my walnut and kind of emphasize that as if it is a crack in the horn. This dragon is certainly old enough to have like, oh, thanks, Quindy. Yeah, things have just been, you know, flying by today. So I'm going to put a crack in here. And then, since I can, I'll highlight the bottom edge of it to make it look intentional. So whenever you've got a crack, figure out how your wing's going. This crack's really on the kind of got an overhang, but I'm going to try to bring it out anyway. Okay, and because this is a synthetic, it is fighting me a little bit on doing a really thin line. So a little bit, blocked most of it out. Sometimes you have to go back and forth when you're doing these kind of things. You'll block it out. You'll be like, oh, dang, did I like totally lose it? And you have to go back in. And then you realize you've highlighted over your previous color and you need to put that back in. And then you lost your lines. You need to put those back in. Yep. Oh, sure. Thanks for stopping by, Tiddly. It was nice to see you. Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah, physical therapy. That's what I'm doing too, Red Links' videos. It's cool. Yeah, so let's just let's call it there. And we'll come back to this tomorrow. We really wow, we covered a lot. So, if you're interested in brushes at all and curious about brushes and the wear of brushes and the types of brushes, and I've been using a synthetic for this stream. And it's holding up pretty well. So if you're interested in all that, do watch the VOD of this stream if you came up in toward the end. Because I talk about synthetics and I talked about like the Kolinsky sables and the marks of wear and when a brush is broken. And then we were talking about texturing on these horns and the color progression that we're using. Let's back out just quick and take a quick look. And I am going to prep the dragon. That's actually looking pretty cool. I think so. once I lighten them up, once I bring in the same highlights I'm bringing on this and bring them on all the horns, I think this will look pretty cool. It'll be good drama. Oh, cool. Vigilari, I thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, this was a pretty info-heavy episode. You know, sometimes we just sit and chat about puppies and food, and sometimes we actually talk about all sorts of awesome things. It's one of, I don't remember what the name of the model is, but if you look in the Luminen, like the people that Techless is a part of, it's like the High Elf version, but they're all light-based. There's a mounted model in there. I'll show you guys when it comes. It should come this week. But it's a really pretty mounted model. The animal has like paws like a cat, but then a head more like a deer. And it's really cool. It's a cool critter. A deer or a cow, like a really, really lightly built cow, though. Really elegant. Kind of a cross. It's a really neat animal. Of course I bought it for the animal. Yes. So thank you all, and come back tomorrow for more of all this. We'll be working on the dragon. I'll probably get at least stuff prepped, but I may work on the wing a little bit more. I would like to set up the wing and get it to the point where we can really see how it looks in a finished format. So we can work on that a little bit more while I prep the rest of the dragon. And yes, please remember to come back and cheer on Rhonda. And yeah, thanks. This was a fun stream. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. I hope you had a great time, and I hope to see you again in the future. Remember, Wednesday may be off. I'm going to try to stream, but if my power is off, it'll be a no-go, and I'll keep Quindy up to date on that. All right? Thanks, everybody.